What will be the biggest stories of the year ahead? In 2019, surgeons get a new view of the body. Japan welcomes the world.
Japan will be undergoing a huge change.
The European project falters.
My sense is that the Eurosceptic cause in Europe will continue to rise.
And 50 years after Neil Armstrong made his giant leap, new nations shoot for the moon. "2019 will bring a whole new reality for some patients going under the knife, as surgeons use augmented reality headsets to help carry out operations."
The image that you see is quite incredible. I remember going very quiet the first time I saw it, and I was very excited by the capabilities.
Doctors at St Mary's Hospital in London are pioneering the use of AR to improve skin graft surgery.
We're trying to see if augmented reality can help identify the blood vessels that supply the piece of skin that's required as part of the reconstructed tissue.
It's hoped this technology will make surgery faster and safer for patients. Multiple images from CT scans are combined to make a 3D hologram, which is superimposed onto the surgeon's real-world view.
We're hoping with this method that you get a much more accurate and quicker understanding of the anatomy. A piece of augmented reality gives so much more information than I could ever put in my reports.
The AR headsets were developed from the technology used in a Microsoft games console. But they now have life-saving applications. In the Netherlands, surgeons will be using the AR headsets to help identify brain tumours, while in Germany, AR will help spot diseased lymph nodes.
In 2019, we're looking to apply augmented reality to lots of other specialties: orthopaedic surgery, neurosurgery, breast reconstructive surgery. Penicillin was discovered here at St Mary's Hospital, and it took 12 years from its discovery to be used and save someone's life. I'm hoping that augmented reality in surgery will be much quicker, and once we can demonstrate that benefit to patients, then I think it should be routinely used.
In September, sports fans will turn their eyes to Japan as it hosts the Rugby World Cup. The tournament will be more than just a warm-up for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. It's central to a plan to transform the country's economy.
Prime Minister Abe has actually made tourism a centerpiece of Japan's growth strategy.
The government hopes to boost the number of tourists to 40 million a year by 2020, 25% more than in 2017. Currently, around 85% of visitors to Japan are from Asia, but it is now attracting more Western visitors with far more spending power. In preparation for this boom, a taxi company in Tokyo has organised a competition to test drivers' English.
Thank you for taking my taxi. I really look forward to our wonderful drive. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Let's go.
The winner only started learning English 4 years ago, and he's seen a steady rise in foreign customers.
When I first became a driver, it would be twice or 3 times in a week. But now, once or twice a day. I'm convinced that 2019 will be a great year for our business.
The Japanese government also wants more foreigners to stay in the country. With famously low immigration rates and almost a third of citizens aged over 65, Japan is suffering from a dire labour shortage. But legislation has been passed that will allow 345,000 foreign workers in over the next 7 years.
2019 will be the year that Japan will be undergoing a huge change, especially with what is happening in terms of labor laws in welcoming more migrant workers. And so this may add to, the flavor of what it means to be Japanese in the 21st century.
But with the Japanese population shrinking by nearly 400,000 a year, the country may need to welcome even more people from the rest of the world.
Yeah, have a good one. Wow, thank you.
You are a rude, terrible person.
2019 is set to be US President Donald Trump's most testing year yet.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
When Democrats assume control of the House of Representatives and he comes under more scrutiny.
They can look at us, then we can look at them. I could see it being extremely good politically, because I think I'm better at that game than they are, actually.
Mr. Trump came to power promising to rid Washington, D.C. of corruption and vested interests.
We are going to drain the swamp.
But this could be the year the swamp really makes the president sweat.
For Donald Trump, I think 2019 ought to be pretty nerve-wracking. The amount of subpoenas that are going to be arriving at the White House will make life quite uncomfortable for him.
Top of the list for some Democrats is publishing the president's tax returns.
Donald Trump is clearly hiding something when it comes to his finances.
But it won't just be his financial affairs under the spotlight. The real pressure on Mr. Trump in 2019 could come from the Mueller investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election.
There's not really any modern precedent for the scale, scope, political importance of the Mueller investigation.
They got nothing. Zero. You know why? Because there is nothing.
If the investigation supports serious allegations against the president, then 2019 could be the year that the Democrats begin impeachment proceedings. But don't expect the Republican majority in the Senate to convict him, or any charges to even make a dent in Mr. Trump's core support across the country.
If you look at President Trump's approval ratings, they don't fluctuate a huge amount. I don't see the Mueller investigation changing that. Even if the outcome of it looks very bad for the president, all the cliches will come out. Fake news.
Fake news, folks. Fake news.
It's a witch hunt.
It's a disgraceful situation. It's a total witch hunt.
The Democrats' fault.
We have Democrats that don't want to approve anything.
And I think that'll be good enough for a lot of people.
This is that moment in time for our country.
So for Mr. Trump's political opponents, the real focus in 2019 is likely to be on who they choose to run against him at the next presidential election.
Our basic American values are under assault.
America's politics are even more divided in 2019 than they were in 2018. In some ways that feels appropriate. Divided government for a divided country.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
On the 20th of July, the world will remember the moment 50 years ago when Neil Armstrong first set foot on the moon.
Of the many wonderful things that people saw in the future at that moment, none of them was the idea that people wouldn't go back. At the 50th anniversary, it's going to be very clear that people are going to go back in the fairly near future.
In 2019, there will be new entrants in the race to return to the moon. Israeli non-profit organisation SpaceIL hopes its lander will be the first lunar expedition funded by private enterprise. And other companies like Astrobotic in the US are also planning to get in on the action soon.
There are two things that have changed since the 1960s. One is that it's cheaper to send things into space and cheaper to send things to the moon. And the other thing is that you can do more in space or on the moon with less. It's a sort of thing that can be done with sort of like private money, a bit of government involvement and a lot of enthusiasm, and that's kind of exciting.
Not to be outdone, China's lunar lander should also touch down in 2019, making it the first craft to land on the far side of the moon. But there is more than just prestige at stake.
We realise that at the poles there are resources that could be quite useful for people. There's frozen water, maybe frozen methane or carbon dioxide, and that in turn makes the idea of a permanent settlement on the moon more likely.
And it will no longer just be men taking giant leaps.
The American astronauts who went to the moon, they all looked back on the Earth with the perspective of white American professional men. No woman has ever seen the Earth as a whole. No one of colour has ever done this. That will all change in the next decade. And that will mean that the world will be seeing itself through a wider range of eyes, and that cannot but be good.
The biggest story of 2019 won't be, as some might think, the UK's protracted divorce from the European Union. In 2019, a bigger, broader upheaval is set to unfold across the continent ahead of the European parliamentary elections.
The real focus next year will be the European election, when established parties that have run Europe in one way or another for much of the post-war era are under unprecedented strain.
The stakes are very high because people are going to be making a statement that will tell us a lot about whether populism has reached its peak and is now in decline, or whether it's carrying on building.
Populist parties have shaken the traditional political order across the continent and are hoping to win more power than ever in the 2019 vote.
So the story will be about a fragmentation of European politics and a new divide between establishment and anti-establishment political forces. At times in 2019, it might feel like Europe is falling apart.
I find it hard to be optimistic at this point about 2019 and what it brings, because my sense is that the Eurosceptic cause in Europe will continue to rise. We may see the European Parliament actually be quite divided.
It raises the multi-billion euro question. What will all this mean for the EU's future?
The question isn't will Europe survive in the short to medium term. We can be sure of that. It's in what state will it survive?
Some of its supporters hope that populist forces could ultimately push the EU into reforms which will save it and the continent's prosperity.
In the 21st century, Europe's going to be competing alongside the giants, America and China. So the underlying rationale for Europe has never been stronger, and it's going to get stronger still.